Battlefield 6's multiplayer action is all about layers. You have the infantry layer, where teams exchange gunfire on foot. The land vehicle layer, where tanks reshape the front lines and bring entire buildings down. And the sky layer, where a small number of flyers hold the potential to flatten ground forces outright. What's impressive is not only that each layer is so different, but also so well constructed, and somehow they all fit together seamlessly. A few of the maps have a bad habit of becoming sniper-infested hellscapes, and it takes too long to unlock the better equipment that makes your loadouts really interesting, but those are minor gripes with what is otherwise one of the best multiplayer shooters of the year. Most of the fighting happens between general infantry, and great moment-to-moment gunplay is the anchor of the whole experience. Weapons look and sound awesome, especially if you have headphones or a good sound system to pick up the deep booms and subtle details like bullet casings falling to the ground. Guns are accurate, but account for bullet travel and drop just enough to reward skillful shooting. Though the modest recoil and bullet spread in most weapons also means you don't need to be a hardcore shooter veteran to be able to land shots. There are 4 classes to choose from that are well balanced overall despite having very distinct identities. Running and gunning as the assault class is a lot of fun, but switching gears and focusing on keeping your allies alive as a medic is rewarding in its own right. Using your defibrillator to keep your team's collective stock of lives from draining while simultaneously getting one of your fighters back in the action can help turn a match of attrition, even if you choose to be less involved in the actual combat. It's great for ensuring that anyone can contribute by playing a role well.
Let's move!
That said, I have some mixed feelings about how the loadouts are assembled. Any class can equip any gun, and while I appreciate the freedom, it's hard not to want to just put my favorite assault rifle on every class and call it a day. Sure, there's a bonus effect for using the weapons traditionally associated with each class, like how the sniping-focused recon class has a faster rate of fire and better accuracy while using sniper rifles. But the effects are modest enough that I quickly found myself ignoring them. That's not to say that classes don't matter. You still need to be an engineer in order to repair tanks, for example, but the lines are a little too blurry for my taste. The other issue is how long it takes to unlock things between matches. Most equipment and weapon options require you to reach certain levels or complete multi-tiered challenges to access them. That's all well and good, and a standard set of daily and weekly challenges help keep the level ups from being a painful slog, but the requirements are too high. You can't even start working on the class-specific challenges, which are necessary for earning alternate subclass-like training paths, until you hit level 20, which could take dozens of hours. Given really powerful equipment options like the deploy beacon are locked behind that, it holds back the early experience an unfortunate amount before eventually hitting its stride. The next layer up is when vehicles get involved. While relegated to the larger maps, all hell starts to break loose in the best way with their arrival. A tank rolling down the street creates equal parts control and chaos. They are a focal point of every fight, able to send the enemy scattering as its machine guns and cannons erupt. As buildings explode and debris rains down, they also become the most important target to clear. Whether that means calling in a tank of your own, switching to the engineer class after getting taken out so you can fire rockets, or something else entirely is up to you. But the way vehicles flip strategic calculus is extremely effective for keeping matches interesting. I also appreciate that, while not necessarily hard to use, tanks do have a higher skill requirement than fighting on foot. Knowing when to use defensive countermeasures, or when to push forward to seize territory rather than retreat, and let friendly engineers repair you means a good tank commander stands out, and they can make or break a match if handled correctly. As a bit of an aviation nerd, I'm a sucker for the final layer, the skies. I love getting in a jet, winning dogfights, then strafing the other team, with some bombing runs mixed in for good measure. Airplanes and helicopters make it fun to be in the skies, terrifying to be underneath, and so satisfying to shoot someone down with a well-placed rocket while on foot. They have the highest skill requirement, asking you to learn complex sets of controls and have a more nuanced understanding of how aircraft operate in order to best utilize them. I'm okay with that in principle, but the lack of a good method to train or practice those skills also means joining up with a newbie pilot often ends like this. There's a great firing range for trying out guns, and the lack of a similar option to practice flying means fewer players will be able to enjoy success in the skies. The classic smattering of Battlefield modes return, and they're just as fun as ever. Team Deathmatch is a good warm-up, but the 64-player battles of Breakthrough and Conquest remain the standouts due to their stunningly massive scope. The former asks one team with limited lives to capture points and advance the front lines against limitless waves of defenders, while the latter has both teams fight for control of shared territory. They're good at funneling the action towards specific areas, leaving room for big battles in the streets and skies while up-close and personal skirmishes happen on the objectives. Beyond that, you have options like Rush, a Counter-Strike-like mode focused on smaller groups that became another one of my favorites due to its instant action and short duration, making it a good alternative for quicker sessions where I don't have time for a prolonged tug-of-war. The brand new Escalation mode has also impressed, having you fight for a large number of control points that decreases over time, forcing more and more intense battles as you near the end. I like that quite a bit, as the changing shape of the battlefield necessitates a fun shift in tactics throughout. There are 9 maps at launch that are generally strong, ranging from the crowded streets of Saints Quarter, which is perfect for close quarters action, to the enormous vehicle-filled Operation Firestorm. Empire State is one of my favorites, with a great mix of open areas full of roads, buildings to duck into, and rooftops to snipe from. It's a tactical advantage to learn the maps, and knowing that seizing the rooftop of a building opposite an objective point so you can wipe out an enemy squad from on high emphasizes the thoughtful nature of Battlefield 6's combat. Not every map is a winner right out of the gate, however. Liberation Peak has already become a well-deserved meme in the community because of how one hill is always filled with snipers, which really take away some of the class balance that Battlefield thrives on. Mirac Valley is pretty similar, particularly in games of Breakthrough, where the attackers have too little cover in their push against a team of sharpshooters. And while I really like New Sobek City overall, with varied terrain and joyfully destructible structures that help it stand out, it can also become littered with anti-vehicle mines to the point of rendering tanks useless. That might be more of an issue with how the mines themselves are balanced, as they have a tendency to become far too numerous very quickly, but it takes away from what is otherwise a top-tier place to fight. It certainly helps that the maps all look great, especially once you factor in their excellent destructibility. Chunks of cement rain down as bullets collide with buildings, cars and buses explode, and cover can be erased in an instant with a well-placed shot from a grenade launcher. Bring a tank to bear and you can crumble entire buildings, changing the terrain in ways that are meaningful, never quite the same from match to match. But the most impressive part is how all of it comes together. There was one moment where I was in a pitched battle for control of a zone in the construction sites of New Sobek City. The enemy was entrenched until I rode my tank in, smashing through a wall and a few support columns in the process. Dust and debris covered everything, but I ignored it as I sprayed gunfire from my machine gun, and my teammates mopped up the rest. It was gorgeous and something you simply won't find at this scale in any other game. Battlefield 6's multiplayer action is expertly crafted, wrapped in a wonderful layer of destructibility that both looks great and material affects the flow of combat. The gunplay is excellent, with weapons that are accurate enough to reward skilled shooting, but have just enough sway to promote a bit of careful thought while you take aim. I wish the early progression didn't delay the fun of loadout building quite as much, and a few of the maps would benefit from some rebalancing, but most of the options play really well overall. Besides, those are minor gripes with what is otherwise a great time. Like a precision shot from my trusty M2010 sniper rifle, this one's a hit.
Executive Reviews editor Tom Marks here with Justin Koreis to talk about your review of Battlefield 6, the multiplayer in it specifically. Obviously, we had a separate review for the single-player campaign with Simon Carty. You can check out that review if you'd like. Justin has been a long-time reviewer at IGN, a lot of shooters under your belt. You most recently reviewed Rainbow Six Siege X, which was their sort of relaunch thing, Fragpunk, Delta Force, the finals. You also review beyond shooters, you're a reviewer for MLB The Show, that sort of stuff. But let's talk about Battlefield 6. Why did you want to review this game specifically?
Yeah, I've had Battlefield 6 circled on my calendar for a long time. As you can kind of tell from my review history, I'm a big shooter guy, and I have been for a long time. That's kind of what, going back to high school, my friends and I always played together, and it's a big part of why I ended up tangentially in the video games industry anyway, just as a kid who came up on Halo and playing things like that online. And so we're always kind of looking for what the next one is. I will say we got pretty hooked on Siege for a while after we went back and did that re-review. But this is one that I knew. I like the Battlefield series. I like also changing up what I play a little bit. So going from very intimate, up close combat to big wide open spaces was really exciting and interesting. And honestly, something about this one has had a little bit of buzz to it. There's been a little a confidence to it where it seemed like this one could be really worth paying attention to and really getting into. And so just as a reviewer, that's a fascinating opportunity to take on something that seems like it could be really interesting and leave an impact, which is kind of all you can ask for as a reviewer.
Yeah, totally. And, it's funny also with this one specifically where the campaign kind of didn't quite live up to it, but it sounds like the multiplayer did. So that's nice. It's one of the reasons we like to separate these reviews out. You said you jump between different shooter styles. I'm curious, if you had to, take it or leave it, one for the rest of your life, would you go small scale or big scale like Battlefield, do you think?
Oh,
and obviously the ideal answer is both, but... Yeah,
actually, the ideal answer is probably Titanfall 3, if that would ever become a thing. Because I do but probably the large scale thing. When I play Halo Infinite, I tend to gravitate towards big team battle and things like that. And even in the playing the finals, which you don't have vehicles or anything like that, the maps are really big, and I like how much you can move around. I'm a fan of clever movement tech and different ways to approach things. Really, I like shooters where you can play in different ways and be good at different types of things. I think that's what makes it the most interesting. If everybody is an identical kit that plays the exact same way on every map, I think it gets a little stale pretty quickly. So something that gives variety really is I think more important than the size and scale.
Does the class system in Battlefield also kind of feed into that then?
A little bit, although I will say I do tend to get a little skeptical of too strict a class system as well, because I do like to be able to, if we're both running Assault, can we play Assault different ways? If we're both running Recon, can we play Recon different ways? And I will say one of the things that I really like about Battlefield 6, the answer is absolutely yes, 100%. I was messing around with a Recon kit, but instead of sniping, I was just throwing my little remote drone around and spotting people and just racking up assist points as everybody I spotted got gunned down by my team. It's one of those things where it's man, if I'm having a match and I just don't have it right now, my shooting is bad, I don't know what's going on, maybe these people are too good, and I just need to contribute and not die every 5 seconds. I love that I have these tools I can pull out of my back pocket and do stuff like that instead. And I think that's one of the things that Battlefield 6 does, frankly, better than anybody right now.
Do you have a favorite in the series, or was there a sweet spot for Battlefield for you over the years?
Yeah, I've got a soft spot in my heart for Battlefield Battlefield 1942, where it started. I remember getting that on my computer 20 plus years ago and having a really good time with that. And that was the first one that I think realized that promise to me of big battlefields where you have airplanes flying overhead and troops on the ground and, having people who are doing both, or, they're both manned by human beings the entire time. So I really like that. Although realistically, the one that I probably played the most of was Battlefield 4. That was one of the ones that became the, me and my bros are shooter for a while, so we played a ton of that, and didn't really mess with 2042 too much.
What do you think it is about large-scale multiplayer battles that makes them work? What do they have to get right in order for that to be fun and not just be sort of a pile of stuff happening?
Yeah, I think there's two things that it really takes. Like each individual like element of it has to be good. Like if like flying stuff was good, but actually fighting on the ground was terrible, this would not be a very good video game. Likewise, if like the tanks just suck to use, like the whole thing falls apart. Like all of those have to work, but then they all have to be well balanced enough. If let's say the tank combat is great, but it also just dominates the match, and as soon as somebody has like one good tank, the match is over. That's not fun either. And so you have to have these like separate pieces that are well constructed that fit together in a way that is like symbiotic almost. Like, you know, when you're in a tank, it can be really tough to shoot down flyers most of the time. But if you're on foot with as an engineer, you can typically do a lot of damage to those, but then the tank's going to gun you down. So there's almost like, not quite a rock, paper, scissors. It's not that like purpose built, but it's that sort of like flow between each where each is viable and each is really good that works. And I think that if one of these things was overpowered or terrible, then it wouldn't work as a total package.
Sure, that makes sense. Is there anything that didn't quite make it into the review that you would like shout out now? Any sort of little detail or fun thing like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of little things that stick out. Like, I really do like the gadgets. There's like as you saw, you have this assault ladder which you can use to reach higher places. You can also just like lean it up against a wall and climb on top of it, like this little mini like hunter's blind almost, which makes for really funny gameplay when you see a bunch of the other troops just like run by you underneath your ladder, and then you just start going like pop 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 pop, and then like you make a little pile of them. I mentioned the recon drone, which I'm a big fan of. There's also a couple other little like just minor like shooting things that I'm curious to see if they adjust over time. Like there's a certain like amount of bullet spread you have when you fire what we commonly refer to as bloom, and it's a little bigger than I think some folks would like. I kind of like it the way it is because it forces you to like, even if you have a machine gun, you have to like stop and like do like burst fire, which, you know, to keep your shots grouped together and accurate. I like that style of thing. So much of what I like about how Battlefield 6 plays is that you have to be thoughtful with kind of everything that you do. And frankly, as somebody who's getting a little older and doesn't have the lightning quick reflexes that I did in my teens and early 20s, it helps keep me in the game when I can, you know, have somebody spraying bullets at me and like stop and think and aim and let it fly.
Last question, you mentioned that the idea of bloom, and also in your review you talk about the sort of meme of some levels becoming snipers' nests or snipers' dens.
Oh boy.
What do you hope to see change with this game? Like, what's your wish list in terms of updates in the near future?
Yeah, honestly, I think that's the thing that's kind of exciting about like this being a game, sort of the modern like live service area where we know that there's going to be rebalances, retuning. Like we've already seen like very slight nerfs to like sniper rifles and things like that, and so I'd like to see more things like that. Maps like Liberation Peak, you know, I would love to see adjustments to help cut down on things like snipers. I don't know if that means moving things. I don't know if that means like introducing like out of bounds areas in certain places that people like to get to hide and snipe. The other one that stuck out to me a little bit is you know, engineers throw these anti-vehicle mines, which are really fun to use. I was quick story, I was playing the other night, and I ended up like in a helicopter that got shot down, and I parachuted and I landed on top of an enemy tank accidentally and threw a mine on it. Took us both out. Felt incredible. Like that's the sort of stuff this game does so well. But at the same time, like you have a lot of those mines when you spawn, and any other engineers on your team have them, and they seem to be persistent. It's not like they don't seem to go away when you die or anything like that. So it doesn't take long for roads to just become like just littered with mines, just absolutely like disgusting with mines. And so I'd love to see like some tuning around that, maybe again give them a despawn timer or things like that. But like really, it's an extremely solid shooter, but like little tweaks, little balances, like it is like it doesn't need course correction, but like a little gentle, like a little wind in the sails
Sure.
in one direction, like might be enough for it to like really like solidify itself as one of the best shooters of the generation.
Well, great. Justin, thank you so much for talking a little bit
Yeah, of
more
course.
about your tastes, your review, all of that jazz. If you want to check out our single-player campaign review for Battlefield 6, that is a separate thing from Simon Cardy. We had a conversation with him at the end of that one. You can go check it out. Spoilers, it scored much lower than the multiplayer. And if you want more from Justin, his last review, like I mentioned, was that Rainbow Six Siege X review, that big sort of reboot, relaunch, whatever you want to call it for that game, taking a fresh look at that in 2025. And for everything else, stick right here with IGN.